What's going on, everybody? Demarco here with Deadlifts, Dogs, and Dad Jokes, another episode. And very excited to have a special guest on today. We're going to talk about kettlebells, we're going to talk about cigars, and what other things kind of come up. So it's a very special guy, someone I met online. He's achieved the Sinister challenge, the Simple and Sinister. He has completed it with the 48-kilogram kettlebell. And that's something I'm actually currently training for. So selfishly, I'm excited to pick his brain and figure out how he achieved that feat of strength. He did it last year, and excited to talk about some other stuff. So kettlebell guy, he's also strong first certified as I am, and very pumped. So we're gonna have some fun and hopefully learn something.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Morning. Yeah, man. Perfect. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I'm super happy to have you on. I'm honored that you took the time to be on the show.
Oh, likewise. I'm glad that you let me come on the platform. And this is the first time that I've ever done a podcast or anything like this. So, and this is the cool thing about social media and Instagram and stuff like that. We get to have conversations like this. So.
Oh, absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. And like I said, I'm super pumped to have you on here. I don't remember how I found you. I feel like somebody that I followed probably followed you and posted or shared something of yours, but I just remember seeing one of your videos, and I think you were probably snatching a heavy bell or doing. You also do the bent press, and I saw it. Was like, man, that's a lot of weight, and that's really good technique. I should give this guy a follow and check his stuff out. So, but I've been watching your videos for the last couple of years, and definitely drew inspiration from it, and just fun. You just post fun stuff, and you're definitely super positive, and I knew that your message and everything was going to be great for our audience. So
yeah, I appreciate it. Likewise, I respect everybody that swings a kettlebell, especially if you're a busy person, a working professional, and it's not easy. It takes a lot of time, and of course you're kind of on your own too, doing a lot of this stuff.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, man. Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely an individual sport, and it all does fall on you. Although the one nice thing is, like yesterday, for example, so I'm a stay-at-home dad. I do train some clients, and I do have a small online training business, but for the most part, I'm dad, stay-at-home, Mr. Mom duties. And yesterday, for instance, was our laundry, chores, cleaning, all that stuff, and between that, taking care of our baby girl and all that stuff, I didn't get a chance to train until last night at like 8 o'clock, and obviously I was tired just from working on shoveling. I live in Massachusetts, so you don't have to worry about this, but we're I shoveled the car out, snow and all that, but man, I was pretty tired, but I definitely I needed to, my goal for myself was I needed to hit 3 sessions a week, with my schedule. So I knocked it out, did my 10 minutes of swings, did my 10 get-ups, and it was good. And the nice thing about kettlebell training, which I'm excited to talk to you about, is if you do it the right way and don't overdo it, it revitalizes your body. You feel good after a training session, versus you go heavy barbell, and it's good. I love the barbell, but the barbell, it'll smoke you.
Oh yeah, especially after a heavy deadlift session. I need a couple of days after doing that to fully regenerate.
Oh, absolutely. I'm laughing because when I do eventually hit Sinister, which I'm also excited to talk to you about today, I'm definitely going to go back into the barbell. And my in-laws always laugh about how I just eat so much food because I'm so active. And I told them, I said, man, just wait till heavy squat day. When I go back to heavy barbell back squats and front squats, it's my stomach becomes a black hole of endless consumption.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do a lot of high rep squatting at the gym, which I've posted a few. I don't post as much barbell stuff as I do kettlebell stuff, obviously. But the high rep squat, like I like watching like the old Tom Platz videos of just the really intense squatting. And I'll tell you what, when you do like a 20 rep squat program or just high squats in general, man, your appetite goes way up. I'm usually hungry either later that night or the next day, and it definitely has that effect.
Oh, absolutely, man. And it's funny. I'm excited about how we're jumping around here too. It's a lot of fun stuff to talk about. But I love the Tom Platz, squat videos and workouts. It also reminds me of the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Franco Columbu, and I'm blanking on the guy, Mike Metzger, I think was his name,
Mike
like
Metzger, yeah,
from the Pumping Iron documentary. And it's true, man. You know, heavy squats are one thing, but the high volume squatting is also very, very, very powerful. And it's funny how, you know, whether you're a kettlebell or a barbell or a power lifter or a bodybuilder, everyone thinks that their way, you know, is superior. And sounds like you've figured out, just like I have, each of the modalities has something of value. And if you kind of Bruce Lee it a little bit and add the best of each, you can really put together an awesome program. Like I love heavy deadlifting, and I mean very similar like the tactical strength challenge, right? I just like a heavy deadlift, mixing in pull-ups, and then obviously the kettlebell snatch or the swing or clean and push press, the jerk. You know, it's cool how those kettlebell ballistic movements, they'll build basically everything, right? Your work capacity, your grip strength, your conditioning, but they don't take away from your other lifts. If anything, they augment and improve them. So I feel like I think the swing is, I mean, it's still, it's becoming popular, but it's a hell of an accessory move to your deadlift. That's for sure.
Yeah. Especially the two-handed swings. You know, I do that. You know, I snatch more often than I do swings, but every once in a while I'll throw in the heavy two-handed swings with the 68, and the ballistics absolutely carry over to the deadlift. No question about it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And this, I mean, the stance and everything, just the position really sets you up for it. I mean, the main difference just being your hands obviously a little further apart for the barbell, but yeah, absolutely. You're in double overhand position. Your stance is very similar. I mean, some people will go closer, but for a lot of people, they kind of end up in that kind of sumo-ish kind of stance.
Yes.
And it carries over, especially for someone like you that's a taller lifter. It typically, you know, but biomechanically works out in your favor. So it's definitely great stuff, man. Well, let's kind of go back to the beginning. I'm like super obviously pumped about all this. The number one reason I wanted to have you on here is selfishly for my own self is I would love to talk Sinister with you. And basically, if you just want to give everyone a quick rundown of what Sinister is, and then I would love to hear about how you completed the challenge, what your training looks like, and what your approach was from, you know, day one to Sinister.
Yeah. And when you mentioned that, I kind of had to go back and think from beginning to end as far as how my journey went with that. And I do have to preface the sort of outline that I would give by saying that before I even knew what Sinister was, I had been training with kettlebells for 10 years up until that point.
Oh,
and
nice.
So I had already had a pretty extensive background swinging the bells. I didn't know, I had never even heard of Simple and Sinister until about 6 months before I started training toward my SFG certification.
Okay.
So that was back in July of 2020. I've never read Pavel's book. I couldn't even tell you one chapter or one word out of that book. So anything that I did, Simple and Sinister related, that was all based on my own critical thinking, my own anecdote, so forth and so on. And so with that said, when I started training for the Sinister goal, I didn't work with a 32 or a 40. I jumped in right with a 48 and started working toward it. The way that I approached it, and I don't know how much this is going to deviate from what Pavel or anybody else would recommend, just because I've never read the book.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing that I tested were the get-ups. So before I even tried anything, I just wanted to see if I could do the 10 get-ups every minute on the minute. And when I began, I could pull that off no problem.
Oh, wow.
As a matter of fact, when I did the 10 get-ups, I did it faster than every minute on the minute. As soon as I was done with one arm, I just went right over to the other arm and did the next one. So that I did in about 7.5 to 8 minutes before I even, started getting into it. Now, the swings were a different story. And I think that's where the vast majority of people are going to have problems, is with the swings.
Oh, big time.
The first time that I attempted the swings within the 5-minute period, trying to do that, not every minute on the minute, but the 10 swings every 30 seconds on the 30 seconds. So basically you have, 10 to 11 seconds worth of rest time before you stop one set of 10 swings and then start on the next.
Oh yeah.
And so, yeah. So the first time I tried that, it just wiped me out. I don't even think I got to 60 swings before it just shut me down. And, your glutes and your quads, if you don't have the lactic acid built conditioning in the glutes and the quads, it shuts you down whether you want to be shut down or not. So knowing that I was able to get the get-ups without really any problem, the vast majority of the training was spent on the swings. I might have revisited the get-up portion once every couple of weeks just to maintain on it. And when I did work the get-ups, it wasn't even doing the 10 get-up EMOM. It was actually working up heavier to my 56 and maybe doing, 3 alternating singles on each arm for a total of 6.
Yeah.
So maybe I would do 1 get-up, rest a couple of minutes, do the other side, rest a couple of minutes until I got to 6 total. And even though I wasn't doing the EMOM style with the 48, by going a little bit heavier and taking my time with it, I did find that by going back down, I was able to nail the 10 get up EMOM with the 48, no problem. Like the going up heavier in weight carried over to the extent that it actually made the EMOM easier than doing the EMOM itself. So
nice. Okay.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So that was something that I did every couple of weeks. Now the swings I would do a couple of times a week, and I didn't want to make the simple and sinister goal the sole rabbit chase, and that's what a lot of people recommend doing, is just focusing on simple and sinister all by itself. Don't do anything else. I didn't really want to do that because I didn't want to regress in other aspects of training. And around that same time frame, when I hit the simple and sinister, the sinister goal, that was also the first time that I had double bottom up pressed my pair of 40s. It was also the first time that I had bent pressed the 68 on each side. So that all happened around that same time frame.
Oh, wow. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So as far as the swings were concerned, how I programmed for that, I just started off real basic, doing 10 swings on one arm, resting 1 minute, and then doing 10 swings on the next arm, and then doing the 100 swings total. Once I found that was relatively easy, then I would go down to 55 or 50 seconds between each set, and then 45, and then 40, and then 35. As everything progressed and got easier, regardless of how many weeks that took, I didn't really pay much attention to that.
Yeah.
I just based it off of when I became acclimated, when it became easy. And then at that point, I would decrease the rest times between each set of swings by 5 or 10 seconds, test it out, see how it felt. If it was challenging, but it was doable, I would continue to do it until it became easy. Once I got down to about 20 seconds of rest time, at that point, trying to do all 100 swings with the 20-second rest time was too challenging, not in the sense that I didn't have the strength or the conditioning to handle the volume, but dealing with the lactic acid buildup in the glutes and the quads was still an issue at that point.
Big time. Oh, it smokes you, man. It absolutely wrecks you the first time, especially.
Yes. So what I did at that point was, when I worked the swings twice a week, one of those days I would do the one arm swings, and then the other day I would do heavy two-handed swings with my 68 to see if there was any carryover, which there was. Yeah. If you program two-handed swings with a heavier bell the same way, I found that it was a little bit more challenging with the 68 doing it that way. And the great thing about the heavy two-handed swing is that the distribution of the load is even across the lower extremities.
Yeah.
So it hits the glutes a lot harder. It hits the quads a little bit harder. And it also gives like your shoulders, your collarbone, your SC joint a break.
Yeah, yeah.
I did find that with doing the one-handed swings a lot, it did start to put a little bit of strain on the collarbone and the SC joint. Whereas with the two-handed swings, it kind of gives your traps, your collarbone, that region a break from doing the one-handed swings all the time. So if you're running into that problem, switching over to two-handed swings, maybe even just temporarily, and programming them in the same fashion can help to alleviate that concern. And then once that kind of clears up, you can revert back to one-handed swings. And you may find that you have not lost any progress. In fact, the one-handed swings may actually be a little bit easier at that point. Yeah. But nevertheless, once the 20-second rest times became more challenging, at that point, I didn't focus so much on decreasing the rest times anymore. But instead, what I did was I reverted back to 10-second rest times between each set of swings. But instead of doing 10 sets of 10, I would do like 10 sets of 6. So I decreased repetitions and built into those 10-second rest times. And so I would go 10 sets of 6, then 10 sets of 7, then 8, then 9 as weeks went by. And what I found was that by doing that near the end of the meeting the goal, those last few weeks, it actually helped to develop the tolerance as far as being able to handle the lactic acid buildup in the quads and in the glutes.
Yeah.
With those 10-second rest periods. It also gave me an opportunity to really find a rhythm and a pace within those 10-second rest times. So doing the set of swings, putting it down, knowing, how many seconds you have to kind of shake your body off, think for a second, hip hinge, go back down, pick up the bell. Finding that rhythm and that cadence within that 10-second rest time is also important, I found. And the better you get at that, then things will end up becoming easier as you find that rhythm. And so once I finally hit that 10 sets of 10, and that became easy, and I had a little bit of gas in the tank and I wasn't totally spent, that's when I started really emphasizing on combining the swings with the get-ups.
Yeah.
I did combine the swings and the get-ups and do a full Sinister set every once in a while, but not that often, just because I knew the swings were the weak point, and that's what needed to be emphasized more than anything. But what I found was that once I was able to nail that 10 set of 10 swings within that 5-minute time frame, have a little bit of gas in the tank, rest that 1 minute, then I was able to pull off the 10 get up EMOM right afterward and then finish the full set. And so once I did that, that's whenever I sent my video to Strong First, and then they gave it to me. So
that's cool, man. And I saw, I commented on your post. Obviously, I watched your video. It was absolutely amazing, and your reps were solid, man. They were. Yeah. I mean, I'm SFG like you are, but I wouldn't consider myself an expert, obviously. But when I watched it, I watched every single rep, and there wasn't a single swing that in my mind that was questionable. It was crisp, strong, great height, and you were packing the shoulder, which you have to pack your shoulder that way. You can't be lazy, or you will jack up your shoulder. But yeah, it was absolutely amazing. It fired me up to train too. I was like, shit, yeah. Like I watched I watched the Sinister, and it was just for my workout. I was like, man, I'm good now. I'm ready.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I don't really consider myself an expert per se. I don't really view myself in that light, so to speak. Yeah. I suppose I have a lot of experiential knowledge just because I've spent so much time over the years training and figuring things out and enjoying the process. Kettlebell training has kept me grounded and for the most part, kept me out of trouble. I don't know where I would be if I didn't have this in my life, because I'm a high energy guy. And, I was that kid growing up with ADHD and was hyperactive and stuff like that. And so, and then of course in my late teens and my early 20s, I wasn't like the most virtuous guy. I was, doing the college thing and getting into a little bit of trouble, but not anything serious. But I definitely wasn't making very good choices. But once I found kettlebell training, that's the one thing that kept me out of trouble, and it also kept me in shape as far as working a full-time job and then going to college as a full-time student at the same time. I didn't have time to go to the gym around that time, so I needed an at-home solution. And throughout the years, it's just progressed little by little, and here we are now. So it's just been a step-by-step organic process. I'm tickled to death, and I can't really believe that it's gone as far as the Instagram thing, having this conversation, maybe do another podcast in the future with other pages. So, but yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. I couldn't agree more with everything you just said. I'm the same way. I happened to stumble upon the kettlebell. I'm not nowhere near as long as you have. I've been a lifter for probably about I guess 15 or 16 years now. But I've only been a kettlebeller for the last almost 4 years. So I'm actually still pretty new to it. And it's funny. You've done, you're over 10 years in the game, and you kind of figured it out. Ironically, a lot of stuff that you mentioned earlier, as far as your training theory and everything that you were doing, it is actually in the kettlebell simple and sinister by Pavel.
Okay.
So sounds like you, in your own on your own way, you figured out some of the stuff that Pavel figured out as well, too, which is cool. And I've noticed, I've talked to not a lot of people, because it's kind of wild. Most people aren't going to commit to something like Sinister because it's pretty hard, and it gets boring. Like you said, you're doing two movements and all that, but nobody and it's been about maybe 5 or 6 people now. Nobody has used the exact same method. I have a friend of mine who was doing martial arts at the time, and he was doing BJJ 2 or 3 times a week. And the simple and sinister started off as just his accessory work, kind of his functional training accessory work. And then he kind of just happened to kick up his training and then get into sinister. But he did it over 6 years because it wasn't the priority. So he really took his time with it, which was cool. And I couldn't agree with you more, man. I used to, before I became a coach and got into kettlebelling, I was a pretty heavy drinker. I was smoking, a pack of cigarettes a day, and I was, I was not doing well. I was on some psychiatric medication for, depression and anxiety, and kettlebell training has totally turned my life around. It's one of the things. I mean, obviously, I've got a loving family and wife and daughter, but it grounds me too, man. It definitely helps with those busy days. I get my 10 minutes of swings in, my 10 to 20 minutes of get ups, and it's again a nice at home solution. And you and I were prepared for the pandemic, right? We were already ready to go. The gym shut down, and a lot of people were panic buying equipment, of course, and stuff sold out. But I only had one bell at the time, but I still had what I needed. I just had a 20K and snatch and get up, swings, complexes, carries, go out, go Tarzan it up on a tree somewhere and do some pull-ups, and just, you can do a lot with that one piece of equipment. So it's cool.
Yeah. I as soon as gym shut down, I was getting some pretty good barbell numbers at that point. I pulled like a 505 deadlift, sumo, and my squat was going up, bench was going up. And I also have to say that when I finished college at the end of 2018, I decided, I'm going to start lifting a barbell again. And that was the first time that I had touched a barbell since maybe 2008.
Yeah.
It had been 10 years since I had touched a barbell. And so I had spent a year getting myself reintroduced back to that. And I was putting good numbers up. Everything was going great. And then that happened, gym shut down. And I was like, well, this is cool. This is just wonderful. As soon as I start making some headway, the gym shut down. And so I just started training more at home and just going back to what I was doing anyway. And the other thing that I got introduced to was training with the Sandbags too.
Oh, yeah.
There's Richard Love, who has the Exit Comfort Zone page on Instagram. He planted the seed and introduced me to sandbag training. And I bought my first sandbag. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It carries over to the kettlebells quite a bit with the how it strengthens the erectors, the core development. I enjoy that a lot. And between doing the sandbag training and all the heavy kettlebell work, when I went back to the gym when gyms reopened, which was another like year layoff from the barbell.
Yeah.
I didn't lose any barbell strength. I went right back into the gym the first day that I came back after a year of pulling 505 sumo. I went into the gym and pulled 515. So that was actually a 10-pound increase from not even lifting a barbell at all to going in there and lifting it for the first time in a year. So there's quite a bit of carryover. I mean, you can't deny that. I'm glad that I had the kettlebells and the sandbags here. And the fact that I was able to just do that and then go back into the gym and then not really lose that much strength, I was tickled to death with that.
Oh, no kidding, man. Yeah, that would be cool. I've done a little bit of sandbag training, nothing super crazy. Unfortunately, we're in a city apartment. I don't really have a garage.
Yeah.
And it's so if I were throwing a sandbag around in the apartment, I'm pretty sure my wife would. Let's just say I would end up on the milk carton.
Yeah.
Although in the wintertime, I feel like that would be kind of a cool Rocky IV kind of setup with training. But it was cool. We ran a bit of an experiment with two colleagues of mine and I. We were kind of, I joke that we're like this Jedi family, and I'm the young one, and my coach Sean is like the next one up, and then Mike is like the master because he's the one that got us all into training. I joke that it's like, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Luke Skywalker or whatever, just that corny crap. But we all, in training for our SFG and doing Simple and Sinister, we all PR'd on our lifts. So we went, I'm trying to, for myself, I hit a 405 deadlift and then a year of kettlebell training and barely, I don't think I touched the barbell once actually, other than to demo for clients. Cause I don't do a lot of barbell with my clients. But anyways, I had a 5-pound PR after a year of training for my SFG and doing a little bit of Simple and Sinister work, which a lot of that goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Because, it's two of your main 6 movements anyway. But I hit a 410 deadlift, and my coach Sean went from, he went from like a 410 or 415 to 425. And so he PR'd, same thing. And then Mike did somewhere north of 4. I think it was like 425 or something. So we all hit like anywhere from like a 5 to 15 pound PR. And it was cool. It was really, really exciting to see the carryover. I definitely got to get into the sandbag stuff because it looks like a lot of fun. And it's like world's strongest man kind of training, and it's just badass.
Yeah, it's real similar to the Atlas stones, which I've never really trained with Atlas stones, but a lot of the concepts are really similar.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. The position's very, very similar, and I could see it definitely strengthening up your erectors.
Yeah,
for sure. With getting in that really low position and learning how to do that the right way versus most people just go into flexion, rush into it, and take the hips up, and then get hurt.
Yes.
So, which asks me how I know that that's a bad idea.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah.
I'm no exception to that.
We've all been there. Oh yeah, for sure. Especially when you're a young guy in the gym, you know, it's easy to chase numbers and ego lift and get yourself
Yes.
back up. So we've definitely been there. So you are, and we'll talk about all this at the end, but you have an ebook and you have another ebook on
Yeah.
the way, right? About kettlebell training?
Yeah, I really need to get started on the next one. The beginning of the year is a really busy time for me between work. I work in the banking industry and I have for the last 10 years. And
Nice. That's what I was going to ask you next was what do you do for a living?
Yeah, I work on the technology side of the bank. So I work in info security / cybersecurity. So I've been working from home for the last 2 years, ever since the pandemic started. And they're supposed to eventually send us back to the office. I don't know when, but in the meantime, I've been here.
In 2025?
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing about working from home is, you know, and I'll be honest, a lot of times whenever I upload stuff like a quick snatch test or a quick burpee test, a lot of the times those are on my 15-minute break from work or on a lunch break. So it does give me more flexibility as far as fitting in a few cardio sessions or doing some mobility work here and there. So, or doing a load of laundry, you know, or washing some dishes. So
man, absolutely.
But I do get kind of tired of being here by myself. I am kind of ready to go back to the office to have a little bit more social interaction, but there are good things about it. What was the ebook? It's a really busy time, you know, at the beginning of the year between what I have to do at work. I also help my family run a youth basketball league here in Lubbock, Texas, and that keeps me busy too. I help manage the website for that, and so once everything kind of gets out of the clear within the next week or two, I need to start working on an ebook in regard to the bottom up press. So that was the next one that I was going to start writing. Awesome. It's going to be a pressing ebook in addition pressing, and then it's going to be a segue into the bottom up press, because obviously you have to address pressing before you can even get into the bottom up press. So it's going to address both. As far as simple snatch programming is concerned, and you know, as I've produced more content and uploaded more videos and I've made progress and people have kept up with my journey, I get questions about stuff a lot, you know, and as I answer more questions, as I answer one question, they want another question and another question. And I get to the point where it's like, man, to really put everything into perspective, I'm going to have to like write a book to really outline everything. And then it just clicked and I was like, you know what, why don't I just do that? And so, you know, and I kind of did a little bit of research and modeled that after other people who have done that, you know, whether they've self-published a book or come out with an ebook. And I looked into self-publishing, and after I kind of had a template developed as far as what I wanted to do, I just went in there and did it. And whenever I wrote Simple Snatch Programming, that was during the 2 weeks where I was positive with COVID. Yeah. So while I was positive with COVID and really couldn't train very much, I decided, you know what, I'm going to write this. And I made an outline, wrote everything about it, all of the concepts and the principles that I've followed in regard to building up my snatch over the years, and giving people an idea as far as what's worked as far as getting to the snatch numbers that I've gotten to, whether that was just knocking out the 100 rep snatch test with the 24 kilo. I've hit a 120 rep PR, 121 with the 32, and then
5 minutes.
That took more than 5 minutes. Yeah, I've done 100 reps with the 32 in 4 minutes and 5 seconds.
Dude, respect! Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
So, yeah, and I've got that uploaded on Instagram. That's somewhere on there. Cool. And then
I'll go try to find that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then last year around December, I got 34 reps on each arm for a 68 PR total, one hand change with the 40 kilo, which I need to retest the 40 kilo and see if I can get more than that now. I just haven't gotten around to it. Then a 20 reps on each arm with the 48 too. So I've had various, numbers on the snatch, and I decided to make an ebook just outlining what methods work for me. And I think a lot of what I see from a panoramic view, just kind of looking at Instagram, social media, as far as how people recommend developing the snatch and fitness in general, the spectrum, the pendulum swings quite a bit to where there's way too much emphasis on minimalism, and then the pendulum swings quite a bit to where there's way too much emphasis on variety. And
I couldn't agree more.
And I think that we kind of need to meet in the middle in that regard. And and with that said, with programming with the snatch, I see a lot of people, doing like an EMOM for the snatch, or they'll do like 10 reps, put the bell down, rest for a very short rest period, do another set with the right hand, or do like either like an EMOM or a Tabata method style of trying to program the snatch, or just trying to go in and do a full-fledged snatch test and just keep running it into the ground until they can finally do it. And those methods never worked for me whenever I tried to do it that way. And what I really wanted to emphasize when I wrote the ebook was not to think so much in terms of overnight success, or where you're going to be in, a month or 3 months. Just take it in baby steps and see where you're at in the long term. Like the methods that I use in the ebook, like the rep goal method, the rest interval method, when you can increase your snatch total by just 1 or 2 repetitions per week, if you get 2 more repetitions on your overall snatch, that's 2 repetitions better. That's real. That to be true.
Absolutely,
So what I wanted to emphasize was just really focusing on small incremental improvements rather than trying to focus on an ultimate goal. I think that whenever, and this goes, this can be applied to any lift that you can think of, whether it's a pressing, like a barbell deadlift, you name it. People get too attached to the ultimate goal.
Big time.
And it's like I always say, be a builder, don't be a chaser. And so when you try to chase after something and you're going up the staircase and you see that door at the end of the staircase, instead of just continuing to take one step at a time until you finally reach the door and you can open it, you want to lunge at the door only to trip and fall and then roll back down the staircase and then have to regain ground and start over again. And you really have to emphasize acclimation and focus on the incremental improvement, because when you increase your snatch by a couple of reps, that to be real. That's attainable. If your goal is a 100 rep snatch test and you haven't done that yet, that's still kind of a figment of the imagination. Like you don't really know that to be true, or whether you can do that or not yet. But those little baby steps, each time that you do that, that's a small win. That's a small victory. And this kind of echoes what J.M. Blakely said, the power lifter. I don't know if you pay attention to Elite FTS on YouTube or
absolutely,
watch Dave Tate stuff, but he had
Love Dave Tate. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
I love how real and no BS he is.
Yeah, I loved it. I've followed Dave Tate and I've, you know, kind of adhered to conjugate method West Side barbell stuff for a long time. And I mentioned Louis Simmons and the conjugate method and how that applied to the snatch programming as well, as far as having a distance day and a force day, which I outlined in there. But the one thing J.M. Blakely said is that the only way to build confidence is through victory experiences. And each time that you know, just have a small incremental improvement, whether it's 1 rep better each week, or you go up 5 pounds on a barbell lift every couple of weeks, that's a small win. That's a victory. And more in every time that you have those small victories and they start to pile up, your confidence builds and builds and builds more and more. Yeah. And so as weeks go by, as months go by, when you look at where you started at, and then you look at where you're at now, and you consider all those little baby steps that you made, and all of a sudden you realize that you're doing 10 or 20 reps better, or you're doing, you know, 30 seconds to a minute better on the time that you're doing it in.
Yeah.
Just by making those small steps. It's a huge confidence builder, and you know at that point that it's working. And so that's the one thing that I really wanted to emphasize whenever I wrote the ebook.
Man, that's good stuff, Zach. And I was like jumping up and down internally when you were saying all of that, because that's very much what I'm into as well. I love be a builder, not a chaser. That's awesome. That we might have to take a picture of you doing a kettlebell lift and throw that on there. Make that a graphic or something, because that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love the analogy of the staircase, and it's so true. It's so true how we can get caught up in chasing a number and reaching a certain goal that we lose sight of the progress. And it's funny because the get-ups were very easy for you. You took to the get-ups very well, and it's probably, you know, you had been training for a decade with the bells and with the get-ups, so I'm sure that was a big part of it. But I have struggled with the get-ups. That's been my hard part. The swings are challenging for sure. I have to, like you said, you build up the lactic acid tolerance and the conditioning and all that fun stuff. But the get-ups, I mean, I have to get my body like used to handling the 48K bell. Whenever I go up a bell size, my forearms always get sore and like elbow, and it's not lasting pain. It's just soreness and kind of really just kind of soreness and achiness, and it's like the elbow and a little bit of shoulder and wrist. But after a few weeks of taking my time and progressing, I can do it. But I do like half get ups. My first session with the 48 was, you know, 2 or 3 half get ups per side, you know, just coming up into the sweep and then back down. And then I could do 4 per side, then 5, and then I would do 1 full one, followed by 4 half get ups per side. And you're absolutely right. You know, those little incremental steps are huge in the grand scheme. If you make small victories every single week, or ideally very small victories every single training session, then it's very powerful. And I couldn't agree more. And if I had forced myself to try to do the 10 get-ups, I would probably have, you know, a broken arm, a busted up elbow. I would have, you know, dropped it on myself, and you know, it would be bad.
Yeah, and I will say too that whenever I record get up stuff on IG, it's mainly top sets. Yeah, I spend a lot of time warming up before I even work to those top sets. So whenever I start doing get ups, I might start with a 24 or a 32 and do, you know, multiple repetitions and get my body warmed up, and go from 24 to 32 to 40 to 48, and just do multiple singles and doubles before I even start working on those top sets. Exactly. And I have had a few people ask me, like, you know, how did you get your get up to where it's at? And, you know, a few weeks back, I did get a PR with the get up with the 68 on each side.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which awesome. I would like to repeat that, just because I didn't come down the way I wanted to on the left side. I did drop it a little bit. That was a little bit sloppy. So at some point I would like to get a cleaner attempt at that, but I'm not really in a hurry for that. It's a 68. I mean, you know, that's going to be a struggle, especially if it's your first time doing it.
You definitely don't want to rush it. You're right about that.
Yeah. But I was super excited to pull it off. But people ask me as far as how I've built it up over the years, and I guess do you watch anime? Do you watch One Punch Man?
So I am not. I've always wanted to get into anime, but I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z, but that's it. I didn't watch a lot of this stuff. So
I love One Punch Man just because the episodes he faces these like super powerful enemies, and there's so much hype and so much buildup, like going into the face off for the battle, and they're super intimidating, and all this hype for him to just like punch them one time, and then they're just completely obliterated. And then he's upset about it. He's like, no, not again. Like, there's no challenge for me, you know? And, but outside of the character doing that, like his day-to-day life is very ordinary. Like he doesn't do anything out of the ordinary. And I say that because whenever I explain to people how I go about certain things, people are very baffled that somebody can achieve certain things by the most ordinary things that you can think of. You know, and I don't really do anything out of the ordinary. Most of the time, as far as developing the get up is concerned, it's like what I described previously with doing the 56 kilo get up, where I will just do, you know, I'll do a bunch of warm up sets, then work up to a top set where I'll do a heavy single, rest a 2 to 3 minutes, do the other side. And the key with the get up is not being so much rep oriented in terms of developing a strong get up and doing a bunch of repetitions, as much as it's about being set oriented. So rather than trying to increase the amount of repetitions within a set, keeping the repetitions consistent, keeping it as like singles or doubles, and increasing the amount of sets that you do. So like if you start with a particular weight, like a 32, I'll just use that as an example, and you're just getting acclimated to that, maybe you'll do 3 sets of singles, alternating on each side for a total of 6. And as that gets easier, move up to 4 for a total of 4 each side for a total of 8. And then 5 sets to 1 alternating. And then once you get adjusted to that and that becomes easy, then try to go for the 40 kilo. If you can't get the 40 kilo and you're still struggling with that, well, then maybe go back down to the 32, and instead of doing alternating sets of singles, do alternating sets of doubles. You know, do a get up, come down, keep your arm extended, and don't come back down to the floor with it, but immediately go up and do another one and do sets of doubles on each side. And then as you do that, increase your sets. Go from 3 sets of doubles to 4 sets to 5 sets, and then go back and do the 40 again. If you can't do the 40 still, then another thing that I've always done is getting out my duct tape, setting it in between a couple of chairs, putting like a 2.5 pound or a 5 pound plate on the bottom of it, putting 3 or 4 layers of duct tape just to make that get up slightly heavier, because especially if you have kettlebells that skip 8 kilograms, because all the kettlebells that I have, they don't go from 4 kilograms from one to the next. They always skip to 8 kilograms. So, and that's just to save. Yeah, that's just to save money on my part. But you know, taping a weight to the bottom of it and then just gradually progressing that way, then you might find that you'll finally be able to hit that 40 kilogram. It might be a struggle to get it. But even if it's a struggle, even if the form's not perfect, those slight struggle issues, those form things going on, they will eventually resolve the more that you work on it. And that's the one thing that a lot of people don't understand whenever they criticize form or technique whenever you're handling a weight that's really challenging, especially at the beginning. The form is not, there's anytime that you increase weight, there's going to be degradation in form as the load increases. You just have to deal with that. That's reality. And so if somebody says that your form's not perfect or your technique's not perfect, and I've gotten that sometimes working with like the 60 kilogram, which I do on a regular basis now, but I have to explain to people that I'm getting more and more acclimated to the 60 kilo. These technique and form issues are going to resolve and clear up, even if it's a struggle now. I just got to get more used to it and do it more consistently. I'm not going to go back down to a 48 where I can do perfect form, because there's no challenge to that. I'm not going to get better doing that.
Right.
You have to increase weight and deal with possible form breakdown and work through those things. The more you work through it, the better you'll get at it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
But it's just doing these basic concepts and just being consistent that I think people are a little bit puzzled by that. Somebody like me doesn't do anything special. It's very basic, very ordinary. Yeah. There's no secret. There's no, magic thing going on. And I think that one thing that you see in the fitness industry in particular is you have people trying to prescribe this magic program for this or this secret technique for that. And whenever you see somebody excel at something and you actually ask them what they do and they give you an honest answer, it's pretty basic. You just got to be consistent and get the job done.
Oh, I couldn't agree more with that, man. And it's so funny how you're hitting on all the points that I was thinking about before our conversation. The last 2 years I've been just focusing on Sinister for the last 2 years. And my sessions have almost been identical with some slight modifications here and there. But for the most part, I'm doing my 100 swings. Sometimes I'll go higher volume, but 100 swings and anywhere from 4 to 10 get-ups. And it's, on paper, you look at it, especially to someone who doesn't know as much about training and kettlebell training, it doesn't look like much. But the secret sauce, quote unquote secret sauce, is I started with a 16. I think I used a 16 my first session ever with my coach 3 years ago. And, that 16 became a 20.
Yeah.
And it became a 24, and then a 28, then a 32, 36, 40, and now I'm, working with the 48. But you hit on this also. My get-ups, they're not bad on the 48, but reps 4 and 5 on each arm, they definitely start to get tough. It's a lot of weight. And I noticed my grip starts to give out. The flexors start to get tired, and my wrist is starting to break. It's not all the way here, but it's definitely breaking a little bit. So it's like, oh no, I'm not SFG standard on my.
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to happen. It's part of the process, like you said, when you're pushing yourself to the next level.
Yeah. So. Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like whenever you take a certification course or you read a book on something and they teach you the theory and then the practice ends up being a little bit different from the theory. I kind of compare it to taking driver's education, like when you're in high school and you're first getting your driver's license, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just give an example of that. Whenever I took driver's education, whenever I was in high school and first got my permit, I distinctly remember my driver's ed teacher telling me that anytime that I'm at an intersection and I want to turn left or right out of it, to always turn into whatever the nearest lane is in, just get in that lane, and then use your blinker and then get in the next lane if you needed to get in the next lane, even if there's no oncoming traffic. And so I made, yeah. And I didn't know any better. And so that's what I made my practice. And after I had my driver's license for some time, or either my permit, it's been a long time, but I was driving around with my dad in the passenger seat, and I did that, and he was like, "Well, why would you do that?" You know, and I told him, "Well, that's what they told me to do in driver's ed," and he's like, "Well, that's stupid. If there's no oncoming traffic, just get in the lane you need to get in."
Just go over.
And so,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, whenever you take an SFG certification, it's kind of like that in a sense, which is a good thing because you need to understand all of the basic concepts and the principles from, you know, a theoretical perfect world standpoint. But at the same time, we don't live in a perfect world. You know, there's going to be nuance that comes into play beyond a certain point. So,
Big time. Yeah, no, I absolutely. And you, just like, you know, just like me, you have all the cast iron. Although I see you have competition bells also. You have cast iron.
I mainly have competition bells. I started with cast iron whenever I first began. I still have like my little 20-kilo cast iron.
Yeah.
I eventually switched to competition bells to get better at snatching and some other. I do find the competition bells, the steel, stainless steel, are easier on the hands and wrists.
Big time.
They don't tear my calluses as much. Whenever I had a cap 32-kilo kettlebell with a really thick handle, and I was trying to snatch with that, I was tearing my hands constantly with that thing. And then whenever I switched to the competition 32, I don't tear my hands hardly ever anymore. Now that I got the technique down, but once you get past the 48 kilo in the United States, at least, I haven't found any kettlebell manufacturers or distributors that make competition kettlebells past a 48. They're all cast iron.
Oh,
yeah. I have seen some competition bells, like on Instagram, where you have competitive athletes that are like in Russia or in the Ukraine or over in that region, where I have seen where they have competition style bells that are as heavy as like 72, 80 kilograms.
Ooh,
so
that's awesome.
Maybe they have like I don't know, maybe they have like a local manufacturer there or something where they live at. And we just don't have that here in the United States. I don't know why, you know, but at the same time, I don't plan on snatching past my 48 ever. Any snatch that I've seen past the 48
doesn't look good.
No, it's very unwieldy. I mean, I'm not saying that the strength isn't impressive, but if you're going to work on an explosive ballistic movement, once you get past a 48, you're better off doing something else. Like, I would rather get stronger with my 250-pound sandbag and throw that around as opposed to trying to do
or the bent press. You know, you're getting a heavy weight overhead and moving it. You know, you might as well just bent press, which you obviously do a bunch of. Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned, you know, I've only used cast iron bells for these last few years, but I as you've noticed, like I have, you know, the cast iron bells, they get thick.
Yeah.
They like you said, unwieldy. Like, I have an emotional attachment to the 48 that I have because it's the same one that Mike tested on, the same one Sean did. So it's like, I want to test on that bell and I'm training with that bell. But it's a thick ass handle and it's pretty tough to use. And that's where you're right. Nuance is a factor. A snatch, a get up, you know, those kind of movements, especially with overhead, those movements aren't exactly the same going from one bell to the next with your cast iron bells.
No, they're not.
Hand positioning is different. So you're right about that.
Yeah, I wish I had like a 40 kilo and a 48 kilo cast iron, which I may invest in at some point just to try to improve on the pistol squat. I have not gone past a 32 on my pistol squat. It's my least favorite exercise. I don't particularly like doing pistols, but it is something that I want to get better at. If I was able to do a pistol squat with a 48 and go in and try to do like a beast tamer challenge, that would be cool too. I've done the press and the pull up. It's
I was
only
gonna say, you have to be able to do the press. I mean, with the bent press work,
I've strict pressed the 48 for a triple on my right arm.
Damn.
Yeah, I did it once, and I didn't record that, but I have gotten doubles on both arms on a regular basis. And then I've gotten the pull up. I've done a pull up with the 48. I've gotten that for a double before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I have not worked my way up on the pistol squat. And what I've found is that doing a pistol squat with the cast iron as opposed to a competition bell makes it much easier to perform the pistol, because whenever you have the competition bell, the window, the handle on the competition bell, they go straight up. It's a square, so it makes it a lot harder to grab onto and keep your balance and go down and come back up. Whereas with the cast irons, they have that loop, and you can get your hands like underneath it a little bit in that area, and you can keep your balance a lot better.
That makes sense.
And so the vast majority of the time, whenever I do pistol squats, it's at the gym on a deadlift day after I do heavy deadlifts. And what I find is that doing heavy deadlifts is a great segue into the pistol squat. It actually warms you up quite well for the pistol squat. And then when you go in there and do them, and they have a 32 kilogram cast iron there, it makes it easier to do the pistols.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, keep that in mind. That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, buddy. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I said I'll definitely keep that in mind, because one of my first goals during the first shutdown, because we had 2 shutdowns here in Massachusetts, and I'm praying to the gods that we don't have another one. But yeah, my goals were, I wanted to hit the simple, because I had my 20K and I bought a 32K through the Strong First website.
Yeah.
And, paid way more than I should have for it, but that's okay. And my goal was like to hit the simple and Sinister with the 32, and did that. And then as an accessory work, I wanted to hit a 1-arm push up and then a pistol squat, and I worked on it. And but yeah, I'll have to keep that in mind next time I go back to the barbell and think about incorporating the pistol work into it. So
yeah, it's great on a deadlift day. If I do it on a squat day, my legs are way too wiped out to even try to attempt
your quads are probably just toast.
But on a deadlift day, and I also find that it actually helps the deadlift too.
Nice.
With the pistol squat, the dorsiflexion, the flexion in the lumbar and sacral regions of your back, and all of the mobility that you gain from pistol squatting, it complements your deadlift as well. So, if you need more mobility on your deadlift, whether it's sumo or conventional, depending on how you prefer to pull, you'll find that you'll be able to dip and drive better from doing pistol squats.
Nice. That makes sense. Yeah. And obviously sounds like you've been down this rabbit hole, of course, much longer than I have. You've also experienced the fact that the pistol squatting will obviously really work on your ankle mobility, which obviously will carry over to your squat as well, your barbell squat, particularly if you're doing like Olympic or front squatting. Yeah. I'm sure it really helps you get into that good deep barbell squat, because you've increased that dorsiflexion of the ankles. So
yeah, cool. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's good stuff, man. Awesome. Well, Zach, this was a great talk, man. I guess the last thing I want to finish off with is not fitness related, but talking more about the vices. I see that you are a cigar guy.
Yeah.
And I love cigars as well. My wife grew up in a smoke-free family though, so I do it at most maybe once a year. Like this last year, I went to a music festival with my sister, and it was outside. We had fun listening to heavy metal and lit one up. What are your go-to stogies? What do you like to do?
And I only have a cigar maybe once every couple of weeks. And for anybody that's not really into cigar smoking, there's definitely like a ritual to it.
Yeah, definitely.
And a cigar is not at all the same thing as a cigarette. A
right,
cigarette has,
that's a good preface for everybody.
Yeah. A cigarette has, over 250 added chemicals to it, and you inhale it into your lungs. It's extremely addictive. You know, people have a harder time quitting cigarettes than they do quitting a cocaine habit. You know, that's how addictive it is. But cigars, a premium hand rolled cigar from, you know, Honduras, Nicaragua, that region of the world, it's 100% tobacco. There's nothing else added to it. You don't inhale it. It's for taste, not necessarily to get a fix, so to speak, but it does have a very relaxing, calming effect. For me, it's kind of a meditative practice, and there are different techniques and things like that you have to develop. The more you do it, the better you get at it, just like with kettlebell training.
Of course, yeah.
As far as, you know, as far as lighting a cigar, cutting it the right way, knowing how to pace yourself with the cigar so that it, you know, it's a pleasant experience. It doesn't go out on you, and you have to relight it and stuff like that. But
you don't get sick, which happened to me the very first time.
yeah. So I mean, it is definitely, it's an acquired taste, and it's just something that I got into, you know, over the past couple of years. But maybe once every couple of weeks, I'll have one on the back porch, and it's a very relaxing thing to do. And in this world that we live in, with everything being so fast paced and everything, you know, everybody emphasizing the urgency and trying to get things done, it is good to have something where you can just slow down and take your time and enjoy your own company. We need a little bit more of that in this world. And that's the one area of my life where I can just slow down and take my time and kind of self-reflect a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't force that onto anybody. You know, people do what they do, but that's just something that I enjoy doing. But as far as my my go-to cigars are definitely the Padrones and the Olivas, and then the Rocky Patels are a third. Those are pretty much my main go-tos. As far as the style of cigar, I prefer torpedoes. They're easier to manage and cut. Either torpedoes or Toros. Churchills are just too big. You know, I don't really like a huge cigar.
It's a lot it's a lot of work with the cutting and everything and lighting.
Well, and the thing is, like, even if I have like a torpedo or a Toro, that's, you know, an hour and a half to get it to the nub, you know.
Exactly.
And I like taking my time and self-reflecting, but not that long, you know. But those are the main go-tos. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Yeah, I think my first time I ever had one was maybe 7 or 8 years ago, back in college. But yeah, I do like once a year at most.
Yeah.
My wife is actually allergic to smoke. She actually likes to smoke like campfires and stuff. Actually bother her. So I have to be very selective, very careful with when I do. And obviously I don't want to be smoking around my baby girl. But yeah, no, that's good stuff. I always just go for like the Romeo y Julieta, like, you know, $10 special, and those are obviously pretty decent. But I'll definitely try those recommendations at some point when the opportunity arises. Do you drink anything with it? Do you have a drink you pair with it, or you just go out there and just relax and just have the Stogue?
I might pair it with like rum on occasion. You know, nothing special, just maybe like a little bit of Captain Morgan's. Not very often though, just when I'm in the mood. Most of the time I just have the cigar.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I feel you. It's definitely I definitely can understand the appeal of both, but it is nice. Yeah. I agree with you. We lived in Mississippi before Massachusetts, and we had a very we were very fortunate. We lived in a house that backed up onto a golf course. So we had a backyard and a porch, but the hole was there, the golf course hole was there, so it looked like you had this huge spacious backyard. And man, it was one of my favorite things to do: sit out there, hang out, watch the golfers go by, and people walking their dogs and having fun, people going by in the golf carts. And you're right, it is good self-reflection time. So it's you won't see me out there doing it right now, and here it's like 20 something.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing I was going to mention too. Like, it's not a habit to where I've got to have it, every day or all the time. Exactly. If life gets busy and I don't have time for it, then I won't do it. Or if it's cold outside, it's not like a cigarette smoker where you have to go outside in a foot of snow to have your cigarette on your 15-minute break from work. If it's cold outside, I'm not having it. I'm going to stay and I'm not going to smoke in the house because I don't want my house to smell like a cigar. But
exactly.
But if I can do without it, that doesn't bother me. It's just whenever I have time to get around to it.
And that's the key, yeah. And that's definitely the distinction. And I can tell you, as a former smoker, cigarette smoking is a very selfish and very pathetic habit to have.
Yeah.
Being on the other side of it now and looking, and it's just, you're right. You'll go into any. I don't know if you've ever had cigarettes before, but it's you'll put yourself in the most inclement weather just to get your fix, and it's just absolutely pathetic. I remember just feeling so ridiculous back then.
I mean, I tried cigarettes like a few times in like high school, and I didn't care for it all that much.
Yeah, good.
I tried dip a couple of times, like the grizzly, like, or the skull dip.
The redneck special.
Oh man. And like the second time I tried that, my buddy in high school, he was into dipping, and he let me try some. And we were driving around in his pickup truck, and we were going down like the main road in the small town that I grew up in. And he was driving down the street, and I told him, you're going to have to stop or pull over or something, and so I can open the door and throw up. And that's what ended up happening. Like, I spit that wad of dip out, and I threw up all in the middle of the street, and I've never done it again since.
That was it. Your stomach probably still turns whenever you see it. If you're at a gas station or something, you're like, oh God.
No,
not again.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because whenever I was in high school, I took criminal justice, and there was a police officer that would come and teach that class. Mm-hmm. And one day he came into class, and he had a big the biggest wad of dip in his mouth I've ever seen. And he didn't even have a spitting cup or anything. He just had that wad of dip in his mouth. And as the class went by within that 45-minute period, that wad of dip got smaller. And the guy that was sitting by me, one of my classmates, we were sitting there discussing it, like, look at that wad of dip in his mouth. And we were discussing how, like, it was just gradually getting smaller and smaller. Oh. And by the time the class was over, that wad of dip in his mouth was gone. Like, we were like, yep, he swallowed all of that. Like, like, how do you even tolerate that? So, yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. That's next level. That's next level.
Yeah. That's over 9,000 level on the dip.
That guy's great. That guy could have gone to Fear Factor, man. He would have whatever they gave to him. He would have been fine. So good stuff, man. Awesome. Well, Zach, so one thing I want to finish off with, do you have your terrible dad joke?
When it comes to Simple and Sinister, somebody has to call the crime scene investigation because I killed that program.
Yeah.
There you go. There's my dad joke.
There's your dad joke. That's awesome. I love it. I think that's great. Good stuff, man. So you've got your simple snatch programming. You're working on another one for the press and the bottoms up press. Where can everyone find you if they're interested in, connecting with you on social media and also supporting your business?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. That's where I do my main thing, wandering_Girovic. Or you can just type my name in the search, Zak Morris, ZakMorris. My page will come up. You can also follow me on TikTok. Same handle, same name. And
Okay,
then
perfect.
you can also follow me on Facebook. I have my personal page, and then also my my business page, Zak Morris on Facebook, and then Wandering Gearovic Publications is my business page. So you can follow me through any of those resources.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and I'll link all that below in the description on YouTube and Spotify. So let everybody know where they can find you. So well, Zak, I really appreciate your time, man. I loved talking with you. I'm definitely going to have to get out to Texas one of these days. You know, when this crazy pandemic's over, and we'll have to swing some bells, do some bench presses, and definitely light up a good stove
Yeah,
at some point. So
yeah, Demarco, I appreciate you having me coming on, and maybe at some point I'll come to the East Coast. You know, and that's the
yeah,
one thing I'd like to
come
do
on, man.
is you know, ever since the pandemic happened, I haven't wanted to get out and travel all that. Well, I've wanted to get out and travel more, but the pandemic kind of put a hindrance on that. So hopefully, in the
Sure.
next couple of years, I can get out and do more things. You know, I have a few people that I've met over in Miami, Florida too. So, and
Nice.
I went to Miami in West Palm Beach a couple of years ago, and I didn't want to leave. And so I'd like to go back there too and visit some other places. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I would suggest the summertime because the winters get really cold here. But yeah, if
Yeah,
you ever find yourself in
yeah,
Boston area, definitely hit me up, man. We can work out and have some fun, and I can show you the cool stuff around here.
yeah,
So
for sure.
good stuff. Well, brother, appreciate your time, and want to thank everybody so much for watching. And as always, remember to train your body and feed your mind.